Hi guys, so I'm Julie, welcome to my channel, and today we're going to be talking about one of my hyperfixations, which is Ned Fulmer and the Try Guys. Why has this become one of my hyperfixations? I have zero idea, but I've been watching video essays about it, I've been researching it online, the whole drama. Because me, myself, I watched the Try Guys as a kid, and when this whole news broke, I was flabbergasted. But of course, I was still kind of a kid, so I didn't really have any real opinions about it, or I didn't really do that much investigation besides like the news headlines. But recently, oh boy, that has changed. So where to begin? Let's first talk a little bit about who Ned Fulmer is and who the Try Guys are. So, Ned Fulmer is a member of the Try Guys. The Try Guys are Zach, Keith, Eugene, and Ned, and these four guys basically got put in a bunch of videos at BuzzFeed for trying things and like just trying new things that most men wouldn't, I guess, or most people wouldn't on camera, things like that. So in their earlier videos, I think they were like trying on women's underwear or like trying to wear heels for a day, like things like that. And then they ended up splitting off from BuzzFeed and forming their own company, the Try Guys, and making videos on their own channel as well. So then they just keep doing what they're doing, trying a bunch of things. They focus on differing topics depending on the week. They did a lot of different series within that, like Without a Recipe, 4 versus 1. Like there's a ton of really good concepts throughout their entire lineup of videos. However, the main problem we see is that these four guys are like the brand. And this is why Ned's blunder was so hard on the entire group. So first of all, we can look at Keith. I think his brand is more of like, haha, I'm a goof. I feel like that's very his brand, like the dad character, if that makes sense. Then we have Zach, who I feel like his whole brand was like more bringing awareness to like chronic illnesses and pain and like talking about that. Also kind of like Keith. Keith? Goodness, like Keith. You know, just kind of a goof. Then we get on to Eugene, whose personality was being cool. You know, pretty awesome, pretty vibey, you know, like he's just way cooler than everyone else. And then Ned, whose entire personality was his wife, who he referred to as his wife and rarely called her name. Kind of strange, but like, you know, whatever floats your boat, I guess. And then, of course, from there, they grew the brand of the Try Guys as this mesh of four together. So that's a little bit of background about who these guys are, and they ended up becoming super popular and super like internet famous and famous worldwide. They went on tours, they have written a book, they've done some really interesting stuff. Did they get a show or did it get canceled? I don't remember, but it's like these are feats that you don't really see very often coming from internet personalities unless they are extremely popular. So basically, everything is going extremely well for these four guys. They are literally cruising. Life could not get better for them. And then, wait. What was that on Reddit? Pause. Some fans saw Ned out with somebody else that is not his wife, and they were being publicly affectionate. That's strange, you think? And so the internet was really quick to like go through all of this and like sleuth it out really, really quickly because it's the internet. Sorry, there's people everywhere. If you're going to take your side piece on a date in like daytime, like good luck. And you're internet famous. That's the issue. If you're a nobody, then no one cares. But people recognize you. So it's like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that. Maybe that was a little bit of a blunder for you. And so this guy who is the wife guy, who loves his wife, was seen publicly cheating on her. And that is really, really bad for the brand, considering it is the brand of four guys. And if one of their brands is entirely, like, tainted, then it's not really good for the whole company. And, of course, cheating on your wife is bad. I think most people would agree on that. Like, not really a good thing. Even worse, though, if you are known as the guy who loves his wife. Sending a little bit of mixed messaging there, bud. So this is bad enough, right? The Try Guys already have to do damage control on this whole thing. But, like, Ned can't get kicked out of his company for, you know, cheating on his wife. Infidelity isn't really a reason, even if it goes against their company's morals. But the person he was cheating on was their employee. Oh no. So that's obviously that's over. Like, it's over. You lost. Like, at that point, the Try Guys scrambled and tried their best to do damage control of what they could. And from that video, SNL made a skit about them and kind of is really weird. It's a really weird skit because it has no context and it is basically trying to make Ned the hero, even though they're saying that he was cheating. But they didn't even say he was cheating. They were saying he got into a relationship without telling us. They didn't mention infidelity or anything, which in part could be because Ned has friends who are writers in high places, like in SNL. So there's like layers to this that I love to unpack because I've been thinking about this for a while and doing this video, even though I know everyone has already talked it out. I want to talk it out more because I hate this man. And I think something that I didn't see anyone really bring up was the fact that I think this happens a lot. Not like cheating. Well, yes, infidelity happens all the time, but as far as actual like internet personas, I think men who love their wife a little too much usually are cheating on them. And it's the same thing as like anybody on social media. For example, I've noticed a lot of couples that have a lot of problems and aren't really good together end up posting a lot about how much they love each other. And I get it, you're in love. I get it. But what if you're actually just performative? And that's kind of what I see it as. And maybe that says more about me than it actually says about the people doing it. But I find people like Ned, who are always talking about their wives, how much I love my wife, ends up not being the best husband. Another example, Joe from Impractical Jokers, who on camera during multiple episodes is, I'm married now. I'm like a married guy. And then publicly cheated on her. I also think not just for like I love my wife types. I think this is also true for a lot of the people in the manosphere where they're like, I am the alpha. But in reality, they are extremely insecure. I want to watch that documentary, The Manosphere. I've heard a lot of buzz about it, and I'm very curious to check it out. I think I'll have things to say on that too. But it's those kinds of men that I think when they're so performative, their true self usually comes out anyways, but it's extremely embarrassing and bad, you know? And not just that. I mean, there's a ton of women who do it too, but I think I've prominently like noticed the I love my girlfriend / boyfriend so much types usually have a lot of issues with them, and people that are like, I am so cool, I am an alpha, I hate women, I'm better than everyone, usually are super insecure. That's just my take on that. So, anyways, Ned cheats with one of his producers, and that's an employee. So you can't really have that, or you might get sued. Because conflict of interest, someone's in a position of power over an employee, and it's not good. It's not good. So then, okay, fine, bye-bye. Bye, Ned, you're not invited anymore. Get out, you know? So then we have other complications that this causes. For example, Eugene was about to leave. He's been trying to leave for a while now. I think it was pretty obvious. He has at this point. Thank goodness. Because he has a ton of other projects that he wants to pursue, and the Try Guys just isn't really what he wants to do long term, which I think is so valid and understandable. So this caused a lot of problems. And basically, the Try Guys just had to scramble. I watched one of their podcasts, The Tripod, talking about this, where they were just on the phone with lawyers forever. And Keith wasn't even there because he was on tour with Lou Berger. So he was on the phones with lawyers, having to go talk to his friends without actually telling them what's going on because they could get sued because it's defamation, blah, blah, blah. Even though it's like, come on, like, he cheated. I think he cheated, allegedly. And then there was more drama in that podcast that they talked about where he copied their font for his statement after they made theirs to try and make it seem like they had coordinated statements, even though they're not in contact with him, like, at all, except through lawyers, I guess. And now I think everything is pretty much irrelevant, which brings me to my next point. Irrelevant. Now, you would think that after you have publicly cheated on your wife in front of the entire world, you would, leave the internet for a while. Just get on out of there. Clearly, this is not the space you should be in because you are not good at it. You're not good at keeping your brand, and so you should probably get out. But instead, a few years after that, Ned Fulmer back on the internet, and this is why I hate this guy so much. Not like, I just don't like him. Like, no, me personally, like, I feel like I have a vendetta against him. Probably because I've been watching so much Ned Fulmer hate that I'm like, yeah, what is he doing? This man has a degree from Yale, to be exact. You can't go get a real job and tuck your tail between your legs. You still want to be that superstar. You're not that superstar anymore. In fact, you are actually irrelevant. Yes, I would say that. The only people who watch your videos are people who hate you, to leave comments that say, I hate you, Ned. And you can check it out yourself. I wouldn't recommend it because, yikes. But, it's just a really interesting vibe to come back from something like this. And your first podcast and your first, public appearance and public video is with your wife, Ariel Fulmer. Well, ex-wife. So it's just a really strange thing to see you basically using her for views, even though you say she wanted to be there. I believe she wanted to be there because she wanted to clear some of the air that you probably would have said otherwise. In this podcast, he is extremely annoying to watch. Honestly, it's the most awkward interaction I've ever seen. It feels like really weird. It's like they're not talking to the camera. They're talking to each other and not at all recognizing that there is an audience, and they're just both kind of staring at each other in silence for half of it. And no blame to Ariel. A few of the times you see her actually fuming, and I understand because he is literally stupid. He's so dumb. Because how in your brain, your Yale graduated brain that I'm sure you love to brag about, where do you get the idea that, you know what I should do? I should be the worst person on the planet and blame society for the fact that I cheated on my wife. No one else is thinking that. No one else is going to do that. Because he says, he doesn't take accountability for his actions. It's something I've very much noticed. Because if you take accountability for your actions, especially on the internet, people are like, oh yeah, that is the guy who cheated. But right now, people are like, oh, that is the guy who cheated. Even 4 years after the fact, genuinely, that's crazy for being known as the cheater guy after 4 years. But you know why? Because you can't let fame go. You just can't let it go. For some weird reason, you crave the idea of fame and popularity. You want to be popular. And I know you want to be popular, but honestly, you don't deserve it. And maybe you were popular once, but you know who you were popular to? A bunch of women, middle-aged women, also in relationships. Their relationship is so cute. Oh my goodness, I want to do that. But let's look at their relationship. They made a cookbook together, and that's cute. I like it. I like the vibes. They had a podcast together, which, guess who recycled it for his own personal use? That's right. Ned Fulmer actually used him and Ariel's old podcast on parenting. Yeah. Yeah. So what are you doing, dude? Genuinely, what are you doing? And if you don't think people would notice, you're crazy. People always notice. I guess, sorry, he just makes me so mad because right now he's trying to do a rebrand on something that can't be rebranded. And he tries to make himself out as the victim as well, which also makes me incredibly angry. Of course. Because he said, oh, people in Hollywood and on the internet, they just want to make you one-dimensional. Yeah, because you are. The only thing interesting about you is that you had a wife. But now the only thing interesting about you is that you cheated on her and that you had an affair and got kicked out of your company. Like, genuinely, I don't understand his weird need to be online. He should have stayed offline and let people forget about it. Like, I wish he would just get off of my feed. He's not on my feed, but every time I think about the fact that he's still making videos, it irks me a little bit. Like, I'm not a big fan that someone on the internet is using their wife to their own personal gain. Like, obviously. I'm just not a big fan of him. I just don't like him. Genuinely, get him off. Get him out of here. We already tried to get him out of here, but he refuses to leave. Oh, and that podcast I was talking about that Ariel was his first guest on. So the whole point of that podcast is rock bottom. Basically bringing people on who have hit rock bottom or had hit rock bottom at some point due to things like, I don't know, drugs or like mental illness or whatever. But here's the thing. This is like, I heard someone else say this. I don't remember who. This is a decent topic. I don't mind that topic at all. But I don't think he should be the one to tell it. That is like a big consensus throughout people from what I can tell, is that even though the premise is good, like, yeah, like that makes sense to like have people talk about their redemption arcs, all that, blah, 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 like how they hit rock bottom and like, you know, overall positive messaging. But the issue is that you're looking at this person who's gone through like utter awful things due to their mental health, and the guy who's interviewing you who says he can like relate is Ned Fulmer, who cheated on his wife. Dude, that was your decision. No one feels bad for you. I guess that is another point. That I just don't like him. I don't like that he's doing that, and I don't feel bad for him at all. I don't care that your decisions had consequences. I'm so sorry that your actions actually have consequences attached to them. Like, that is not my problem, and you will not make it such, you know? So then we have Ariel being like, I don't forgive you, and Ned being like, oh, guys, she doesn't forgive me. And that's right. She shouldn't. In fact, she shouldn't speak to you ever again I'm sure she wouldn't if she could, but she wants to co-parent because she's an angel. Now, let's talk about another aspect, because this is one channel that Ned has now. The other channel Ned has is his actual, like, Ned Fulmer one. I don't know. He already had that channel, blah, 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 whatever. This guy is basically just trying to be a try guy again by himself, but he's the most hated one, so it's not working. One of his first videos on that channel was, like, wrestling or, like, G-force, like, airplane, like, jet things. I don't know, very, like, masculine core things to try, I think. I don't know why that was what he chose when on the other channel he's interviewing a lot of women. It's really weird. Really weird vibes. I don't know what his new brand is trying to be, but his new thing is not trying things, sorry, that's already taken by some other really popular YouTubers. But curiosity and empathy. So the Try Guys. It's the Try Guys. That's what you're trying to do, but you can't say that because, you know, that you already got kicked out of that one. So, but curiosity and empathy is a really fascinating thing to go on, right? So fascinating. Except, is it? Like, that's literally what you were doing. The empathy part kind of makes it seem like you want people to be empathetic towards you. I don't know if I was the only one getting that vibe, but, like, come on. Really? I'm sorry. Just because you, like, go in a jet plane doesn't mean I'm like, oh, wait, this guy's actually really cool. Oh my goodness. Who cares that he cheated on? He's so cool. Everyone, look at how cool this guy is. No. It's more of like, what are you doing out here? Like, go home. You can have a real job. Like, it's possible. I believe in you. You don't have to be an internet star. Because no one wants you to be. Like, sorry, you already tried to follow that dream, and since you had everything, you decided to ruin it all. Because you suck. So, you know, this brings me to a third point, or a fourth point, or a fifth point. This brings me to another point, where I saw this one kid talking about how Ned is probably lying about the numbers that he's getting through YouTube, because it is really weird that his videos are still getting, like 10 million views, but there's like 80 comments and like 200 likes. Like, it's not right. These are very clearly like funky YouTube numbers, and people have been trying to figure out like how this is happening. People are thinking maybe he's buying views or like using them for like Google ads, like using his videos as Google ads so he technically gets a view. But anyway, this kid actually emailed one of the sponsors of one of Ned's videos saying, hey, I think he's falsely inflating his numbers and you're not going to get the actual exposure that you want by sponsoring him. And so he made this video, and it was really informative. I'm going to link it down below. I'm going to link this guy. He's really cool. I don't know. He was also on the hate train, so I was a big fan. Yeah. I'll link some of the other videos I was watching down below, because I've learned so much about this awful guy, and I've never been happier. So this is kind of just an overall like rant of why I hate him and like the history behind it and the timeline of events that have happened thus far. Anyways, so then this guy who made that video ended up posting another video, not about Ned, but about something else, because it's his channel, right? And it got so many hate comments and so many like comments in general that YouTube took it down, demonetized it, because of course people think, oh, you're buying bots, you're buying views, whatever, you're buying comments, and that YouTube doesn't allow that, blah, blah, blah. But the problem was all of these bots were saying, like, don't hate on Ned, like, don't do that, like, you're awful. I think one of them was, like, a death threat, and that's not good, because that's a minor. You can't be doing that. Like, that's not really good in the eyes of the law. So and this kid went on to say that he thinks that Ned bought these bots and basically put them on his comment section and his channel in general. So I thought that was really interesting that Ned has gone from global superstar to cheater to bully of a child. Like, that's such an interesting pipeline that I didn't really see coming. But honestly, it makes sense now that you think about it. Like, only someone so narcissistic would go that far. And why would you assume it's Ned? Why would you assume that? Because one of the accounts that was commenting was created like right around when Ned's channel was created, which is a little suspicious. And also the other reason is that people aren't really commenting this much on this guy's videos because he's relatively small-ish. Like, he's not used to this. And of course, he's not buying the bots because, you know, they're death threats. And they mention Ned. Now, it might not be Ned directly. There is other speculation that it could be a family member or a friend that is buying these bots. But one thing's for sure, it's somebody in Ned's corner, and nobody on the internet right now is in Ned's corner, let alone enough in that corner to buy him hate comments for another channel. And the other reason I think this was done on this smaller channel is because that Ned didn't think there would be any attention really attracted to it because it doesn't have as much power as a bigger channel, which I think is a really weird way to display curiosity and empathy, you know? It's just a really interesting concept to be like, yeah, I'm curious of how much I could bully this kid, so maybe he'll stop making videos about me. And it was just a really interesting thing to witness, to watch. But yeah, you should definitely check out the full video. I will find it and link it because I was flabbergasted. And the things that are said, they make a lot of sense. Like, maybe this is my conspiracy theory. I'm not really a conspiracy theorist, but I would bet a good crisp $2 that this is Ned's doing somehow. Now, I'm not saying he directly bought them, but somebody else, yeah. Oh, I believe that 100%. I think it's really interesting to see Ned Fulmer come back with his tail between his legs onto the internet and use his ex-wife for views, and then I think that is the only genuine video that got views. I think the rest were bought, and it's pretty obvious because the like to comment to view ratio is actually absurd, to the point where no one is going and watching these videos besides people who hate him and literally leave comments telling him that. So it's really interesting to see that play out. And then when some kid calls it out, going to bully that kid and send him death threats? Yikes. I don't know if this is like, I don't think this is an Icarus story. I don't think Ned flew too close to the sun. I think Ned was always kind of like this. I just don't think he would have been caught. And that might be a hot take. And it's not saying anything on Ariel. Absolutely not. I think Ariel was always too good for him. And even in some of the podcasts that she was on for like Tri-Wives and stuff, and some of the podcasts he was on with the tripod, it is really, and some of the videos he was in too, it's just really weird to see him always calling her my wife and never by name. It's weird to see her talk about how Ned doesn't really appreciate her even when they were together, which I 100% believe. And it's really sad. And she deserved better. She's way out of his league. Also, I don't know if we noticed, this guy is ugly. Like, I'm not talking like, he's a little funky. This man, it's giving yikes. Like, sorry. I'm so sorry. Not to be that guy, but I am that guy. I genuinely can't wrap my head around why he is still posting videos and why he is still active online when no one is supporting this guy and his rebrand is still to the same audience who don't like him anymore and have abandoned him. You can't just be like, oh, I'm sorry, guys. That isn't going to do it. You betrayed the trust of your wife, but you also betrayed the trust of your entire fan base who kind of saw themselves as like in a relationship and was really relating like to moms, and it just made a lot of sense of who he was branding to, and now it doesn't make any sense at all. And I heard someone say this, and I think it's really interesting. They predicted that his next move would be to go down a red pill manosphere pipeline where he would, do the normal thing, degrade women, be an incel, that kind of thing. But I kind of disagree with this take only because the way his content is, it doesn't seem like turning himself into a red pillar would really work to actually get an audience. It just doesn't, I don't think it would really help him in this case, because I'm sorry, people in the manosphere aren't going to be like, oh yeah, curiosity and empathy. And I think he still wants to play the victim, which is very, very hard to do if you want to be the alpha, right? You can't be emotionally vulnerable. Sorry, that was disgusting of a sentence. I'm so sorry. Oh, ugh. You can't be emotionally vulnerable and also awful to people. I mean, you can. He's done it. But in general, it just doesn't really mesh well. Like, young boys aren't looking for someone who's like, yeah, guys, I cheated on my wife. I'm so sorry. Let me do the vocal fry. I'm so sorry. Oh, the whole video, all of his videos at this point. Vocal fry, disgusting. Ooh. And it's just really interesting. I don't know. I think I'm rambling at this point, but yeah, I don't think he would go down the red pill pipeline only because I don't think anyone there would accept him either. I think his best bet of staying relevant is nothing. I think he should get off the internet. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I don't think he has a place here anymore. I think he did at one point for sure, but I don't think he does anymore. And everybody has seemed to realize that, except for Ned, who will unfortunately forever be categorized as the cheater and the loser and irrelevant. So yeah, that was my little rant on Ned Fulmer and why I personally don't like this man and why he's also the most hated person on the planet at this point. I'm just kidding, not on the planet, but like in Try Guys circles. Not gonna fly. All right. So yeah, thanks for watching. I don't really have anything else to say, so bye.